This video was brought to you by the lovely members of my Patreon. I think we'd assume that a woman would know better, would know not to do that, would know what it feels like to be on the other side of that. And then when you know what it feels like to be on the other side of that, why would you ever want another person to experience that? Hey guys, it's Kat and it's time for another episode of True Tea. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me here for yet another episode of True Tea. We do these videos every single week on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I really want to thank you guys for joining me here and coming back every single week. You guys are awesome. We are so close to 300,000 subscribers. And I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank all of you guys for joining me here and joining the conversation. Thanks for being here. I hope you'll stay for a while. Anyway, how are you guys? What have you guys been up to? I recently went to my P.O. box to pick up some packages and I was gifted with a beautiful package by Fraser's Zero Tea. I'm not being sponsored. I'm actually gonna try these on for the first time on screen with you guys. These are supposed to be hemp teas. They apparently have 5 milligrams of hemp extract. I frankly don't know what that means. Am I gonna get high? Is this gonna make me high? I don't really know, but you know, we don't talk about it here a lot on this channel, but Katblaque she does a little puff pass here and there. So I'm assuming that's not what these are gonna do. These have 80 calories, which is kind of great. There's another one of these that has like 25 calories, which I'm kind of really into. So yeah, anyway, I'm gonna pour this into a glass of ice because I didn't think ahead and put these in the refrigerator. And we're gonna try it and I'm gonna tell you guys how it is. Side note, you guys can always send me things in my P.O. box. I especially want to support women-owned businesses from people of color. So if you are definitely, you've got some interesting products you think that I would like, feel free to send them to me. Now this is the natural hibiscus iced tea. It smells really good. All right, let's see. Okay. It's interesting. There's a little bit of like, you can taste a very faint hint of the hemp. But it's very, very good. I really, really like it. So these are Fraser's teas. You can go to www.fraser.com and I guess check out their teas. And so, yeah. Anyway, let me take another sip because it's really hot in here. And let's get right into this video. So I want to start out by saying that I am very nervous about talking about this because I've never really known how to frame it. And I have filmed this video before, but I found it really, really hard for me to get it out there. Back when this originally happened to me, I filmed a video and I just never ended up uploading it. I think I was still processing a lot of my feelings and emotions about it. And I wanted to come to you guys and discuss them, but I don't think I was fully ready. And since then, I've unpacked a couple of my thoughts and feelings, and so I thought that I would talk to you guys about this. I wanted to talk to you guys about the time where I was sexually assaulted by a woman. So yeah, let's talk about it. This is gonna be a little bit more of like a self-reflective, me talking about an experience that I had, I guess in a desire to share that experience and feel like I'm not alone, I guess you could say. Because this was definitely hard for me to process and I figured that we would have the conversation. So I've talked a lot on this channel about my extensive history experiencing sexual assault and rape and sexual violence in general at the hands of men. And I think if I'm being honest about all of what I've experienced, while most of the people who have targeted me have been men, and I still almost always feel like I have to be worried around men. I have to be careful around men because of my experiences. One of the things that I have been processing, especially in the past 4 years, as I've become more social and been going out and doing more things, is that I have to sort of also look out for women, especially and specifically cis women, because that's just who I tend to be around often. Not saying, there's anything specifically about them being cis, it's just that's what I'm around. Maybe at one point we'll really talk about this, but one of the things that you experience, something that often happens when you experience sexual violence, is that you can become hypersexual. And when you become hypersexual, this is often something that happens because you're trying really hard to reframe the experience. You're trying really hard to sort of take your power back. You're trying incredibly hard to put yourself in a position where you feel like you decided all these things that you couldn't decide when you experienced what you experienced. And so it's fairly common for when you are somebody who's experienced sexual violence to cope with it in that way. And that is definitely the way that I did. And so I went to a lot of these parties. The week I turned 18, I was talking to this older guy who was talking to me when I was 17. And he started taking me to all these parties. And, when you're young at a party like that, you get a lot of attention. And especially when you were like me, you digest that attention rather as positive. Even if it's not, even if you're technically being exploited, it's hard for you not to digest it as positive affirmation, right? And so I would go to these parties and it would be a mixture of people. I always went to these very sort of mixed, all-inclusive parties. But a very common, I would say a very predominant factor at these parties were these heterosexual couples who would come and sort of have a good time together. And I had a lot of experiences when I was younger of me doing something with one person, a man, and a woman joining in. And I think that I don't know if I've actually explicitly spoken about this, but I know that there's been a couple of times on this channel where I've expressed a lot of discomfort with women putting me in a position where I feel I can't express my disinterest in them. And I know that a lot of that comes from those experiences that I had, because some of those experiences that I had, I was young and looking to belong, and I wanted nothing to do with these women. But when you're in a situation where the way that you're looking at things is that all these people love you, all these people embrace you, all these people accept you, you know what I mean? It's really hard for you to push people off and say no. For the most part, I managed to do that. But there were several experiences where women essentially forced themselves on me and I felt I couldn't express anything. Now, as I've gotten older, I've started to recognize that there are situations where women do things that are technically violations to me, but I don't register it as a violation because in so many ways I've been, I guess you could say, socialized to expect that sort of violence from men. Even though there have been women who have technically violated me, technically assaulted me, I've digested those assaults as not as bad as what's happened with men. And to be clear, women have done it a lot less, but they've still done it. I remember when I had gotten out of my last relationship, my last long-term monogamous relationship, and I started to socialize. And there was this girl in town, one of the few Black girls in the little small town I used to live in. And we would always hang out. And I really felt close to her. And it took me a while to understand that she was trying to put me in situations where her and I could do something. Now, in so many ways, this was probably innocent, But I remember when I realized what she was doing. I remember when I realized that, like, oh, she's trying to have sex with me, because one of the things she did was she suggested that, you know, she knew that I liked this guy who she was also interested in. And she was kind of suggesting that we all do something together. And of course, I'm not interested in that because I'm not interested in women. It took me a while to kind of have it click to realize that probably what she was trying to do was get us both in a situation where we were in the bed together and then things just happen, right? Which, of course, going back to some of the stuff that I experienced when I was younger, I've been there. I don't want to experience that. I just don't want to be in that position where I feel pressured into doing something that I don't want to do with a woman. And so nothing ever happened. But I was able to sort of walk away from that friendship, kind of understanding that that's what she was trying to do. And I don't think she's a terrible person or anything like that. But when I recognized that, it made me uncomfortable. So I distanced myself. And that was the first time where I really deliberately started digesting that there are women out there who can do similar things that men do when it comes to trying to coerce and pressure you into doing something with them sexually. But again, I had digested that as not as bad as what men have done. So then I had this experience, and if you follow me on Twitter, I tweeted about this because it really messed me up at the time. Twitter, by the way, is if you ever want to know whatever random thought I'm having in my head, go on Twitter. I'm just basically all day tweeting out my internal monologue. And it is where I go and just sort of have these really kind of sloppy conversations with myself, largely, working through some thoughts that I have. And, well, I'll just tell you guys the story. So a couple of years ago, it was Valentine's evening. And Valentine's Day has honestly been kind of hard for me since getting out of my last relationship. My ex and I used to do some really, really romantic things for Valentine's Day. My first Valentine's Day with him was amazing, and it was one of the first times where I realized that a man could actually love me. And even though I ended the relationship and it was ended on my terms and things like that, there was still a very big part of me that, you know, misses those memories. And I think that's really normal when you miss certain parts of what your relationship was. Even if it all wasn't amazing, you still miss those good times. You still miss those good moments. And so for me, Valentine's Day post-relationship has often been me getting very, very sad about that, thinking back to those moments. And if you've been in a situation, you already know how it goes. You think back to those thoughts and you sit in and you just cry and you remember, and it's just, you go down the list, it plays in your head like a movie. It's terrible, right? And you just cry. So I said to myself a couple of years ago, I'm not gonna fucking do that. I'm not gonna fucking sit in my apartment crying about not having a relationship like that anymore. I'm gonna go out and be social. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna just have a good time. It's Valentine's Day, right? So I go out, and there's a bar that I used to go to quite frequently before quarantine. I'm gonna try to be fairly vague, though I feel like people will figure it out if I mention a little bit about it. But there's a bar that I used to go to all the time, and I want to say that Valentine's Day fell on a Thursday. I could be wrong about that. I'd have to look at a map. Actually, oh no, it's probably this calendar because that calendar's old. But I think it fell on a Thursday. And at this bar, they did karaoke every Thursday night. And the bar was a nerd-themed bar. And even though I only sort of kind of am a nerd, it's a bar that I enjoy going to. I just enjoy the fact that people are always kind of dressed up a little bit, and there's interesting people watching and things like that, and the drinks are really interesting. And often what I end up doing is right across the street, there is a place that I often go dancing. There's a golf club that I often go to. And so I've often come into that bar you know, in my full goth, done my sort of performance on the stage and sang or whatever, and then gone across the street and danced, right? And so this Valentine's Day, I got all full gothed up, and I was just gonna go out and have a good time. I didn't really go out with any expectations. I didn't go out thinking that I would meet somebody for some sort of weird Valentine's Day rendezvous. I just wanted to be out, and I just wanted to go and have a good time. I wanted to sing some karaoke and not be inside my house crying all day, right? And so I walked to this bar, the bar that I just described, and there was this woman standing right in the front of the bar. Now, I am 5'10", okay? I know that sometimes people can't tell how tall I am, but I'm 5'10". This girl had to be like up to here, you know, to me. Like she's like right at boob level. And this was honestly one of the most bizarre experiences I've had, because it's something that I'd only experienced from men. So the girl was clearly drunk, okay? She was clearly drunk, and I want to say that the bar probably overserved her, right? That's how drunk she seemed. And I don't know if you've ever been in this situation, but have you ever been in a situation where you walk into a space and there's this big dude standing in front of you, and you go over here, he goes over here. You go over there, he goes over there. It's just like kind of like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you know, I'm you know what I mean? Like, oh, I just keep stepping in your way because he's trying to get your attention. She was doing exactly that. She was doing exactly that. And initially I thought, oh, she's just drunk. So, you know, I'm not gonna make a big deal about it or whatever, right? She's just drunk, right? And so she's doing that, and I'm realizing that she's doing it on purpose at a certain point. And so I start getting really annoyed. Right now, I'm wearing, I was wearing my velvet top, and I believe I was wearing my black and white striped pencil skirt that I've worn on here a couple of times. I think I wore it in my BDSM, what I don't like about the BDSM community video. That basically. And this woman puts her hands up my skirt and grabs my ass very, very strongly. And she says to me, "You've got no business looking that good. You got no business looking that cute." And in that moment, I remember being so frazzled because I think I could only digest her actions as the actions of a man. Because I'd never been in a situation like that where a woman does something like that to me. And listen, I've been to plenty of lesbian bars. You know, I've never experienced something like that. That sort of aggressive, what I could only honestly associate with male energy, which I know isn't reasonable or rational. And this was a short cis girl who stuck her hand up my dress, grabbed my ass and said, you have no business looking that good. And I just remember kind of like freezing and not really being able to like process what happened because it felt like such a violation. And I think I was actually, I think what ended up happening is I did, you know, get past her and I sat at the bar for a bit and I started tweeting about it. And it was one of those things where it literally just couldn't get out of my mind. I literally couldn't not think about it. I was trying my best to have a really good day. I was trying to have a good time. There were these guys who came up to me and started trying to flirt with me, but I literally just couldn't get my mind off of that experience. I really couldn't. And I think the reason why I couldn't is because it felt so unexpected. I didn't expect that a woman would treat me like that. There was nothing in my life beyond those experiences I had when I was younger that would have said to me that women treated me like this. Now, of course, when I describe the experiences that I had earlier, I'm talking about a sex party, okay? And obviously people can still violate you at a sex party. Let's not get it messed up. But I would not have imagined that a woman would have done that to me at a bar. Now, mind you, I'm saying all of this, but the truth of the matter is that men assault me all the time. Men violate me all the time. It's not, look, listen, we've all been at a bar when a guy has tried to get past you, and his way of getting past you is like putting his hands around your waist or some shit. We've all sort of, and I think that when you're a woman, especially when you're in those spaces a lot, like I was before all this quarantine, you get used to it. You get used to men just touching you in ways that you probably shouldn't be being touched, and you obviously recognize that it's wrong, and you recognize that it's technically a violation, but you don't let it bother you. You don't let it get to you because you kind of see it as a consequence of being in the space, right? But even though this girl just grabbed my butt, which is a big thing, and I guess you could look at the other things that men have done to me and I could say, well, it wasn't that bad. I had a really hard time getting it out of my head because it was such a scary experience that I'd only associated with men. I'd only associated all of the actions she did, everything she did, the standing in my way, the putting her hand up my dress and grabbing my butt. I had only felt like that was something that a man would do. And so I remember tweeting about this and having a really hard time trying to digest it. A lot of times I tweet when I'm trying to figure shit out. And I remember talking to some of my followers, and somebody brought up the point that the reason why this probably sat with me so much and it felt like such a different feeling was because what I was really digesting was betrayal. And for some reason, that really connected dots for me. That really put a lot of this stuff together for me because I guess in so many ways, I hadn't really thought of it that way. Because I think that we would all assume that a woman, especially a woman who participates in nightlife, I think we'd assume that a woman would know better, would know not to do that, would know what it feels like to be on the other side of that. And then when you know what it feels like to be on the other side of that, why would you ever want another person to experience that? Right? And it felt in so many ways more insidious knowing that she had probably likely had those experiences, but instead of going with, digesting those negative experiences and then not doing them to other people, I don't see, maybe this is even wrong for me to say, but it felt like she took a lot of cues from men, the way that men approach women, right? And I can't imagine a woman feeling good about that. I can't imagine a woman ever feeling good about some random person sticking their hand up the dress and saying, oh, you got no business looking that good. Now, granted, she was drunk. But, there are plenty of people who manage not to sexually assault people while they're drunk. Plenty of people. I'd say most. Most people do. For me, it was all really, really scary. And it took me a while to process it. And when it first happened, it was really, really hard for me to talk about, but I think I can talk about it now. I don't ever want to sound like I'm trying to villainize women who are attracted to me. I think that's something that I'm trying to be more conscious of. I don't want for women to feel like they should feel bad if they find me attractive. I get comments from WLWs all the time, you know what I mean? And I don't mind it. Women tend to have better taste than men, in my opinion, so I'm extra flattered. But I know that for me, it's been this sort of unexamined, unpacked discomfort that has come from previous trauma, previous experiences where I was violated. And for me, it still is. It takes a lot of time for me to unpack all of that, to unpack all of these things. And for me, where I'm currently in life is I'm trying to sort of work through that sort of baseline discomfort that I have with women in general. Because I think if anyone actually knows me in person, you'll probably notice that I'm not affectionate with women. I'm not affectionate around women. I hug, but that's about it. I'm not the sort of person who wants to hold your hand or cuddle with you. I just feel in general very inherently uncomfortable with that stuff. And I know that a lot of that is related to some feelings from things that I experienced when I was younger. Anyway, those are some of my thoughts, and I wanted to share them with you guys because it's, again, been something that I've been unpacking. And I'm really curious to hear, specifically from women, what your experiences are with this. I think that I've always recognized that women can assault. I've always recognized that women can abuse. I've always recognized that women can rape, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I guess personally, I have excused a lot of the sort of things that women have done to me because they're women, and that's not okay. And I'm curious to hear from other people if they've had similar realizations, or if they've been in a similar position where someone who was a woman did something to them and they didn't initially register it as violative, even if it technically was. I think that would just be helpful to those of us. I think that would just be helpful to those of us who are still sort of processing those things. So yeah. Anyway, on that note, I will leave you guys here. If you've watched this entire video, I would really appreciate it if you put this emoji in the comment section below. The people who do that are part of the Cool Kids Club, which is very exclusive, and you guys are all invited, but you know, the cool kids actually put the emoji. And so yeah, I guess I'll see you guys next week. Right now you're looking at 2 videos you can watch if you would like to continue to sip true tea right here on this channel. And also in the corner, there are several ways you can send me a tip if that is something you would like to do. Anyway, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.